This is a book review for The Worst Hard Time, The Untold Story of Those Who Survived the Great American Dust Bowl by Timothy Egan. The story of the Dust Bowl is the story of the worst case scenario. It started in the late 1800s when people are moving west looking for land to call their own. The government encourages the farmers and is giving away plots of land to be farmed. But the land which the settlers came was prairie. It was windy, there were no trees, just grass as long as the eye can see, suited for buffalo, and that's about it. But more people came, moved the Native Americans off the land, and started to plow. Then came World War I and a great boom in prices for wheat. The government set the price for wheat and paid over the market value to help with the war effort. So more and more of the prairie was dug up. There was a boom, where people went from living in holes dug in the earth into wooden homes where cars and other luxuries were being shipped to the plains by train, where the standard of living was rising with each decade. Then, after the war, price control stopped. So in order to make the same money, farmers had to plant twice as much, which spiraled into where there was too much supply and not enough demand. Then came the 1930s and the Great Depression, where the price of wheat was so low it wasn't worth planting, as farmers grew crops that just sat and went bad due to there being no market. And then the banks collapsed in local towns, where everyone kept their money. So even if you were frugal and saved your money, didn't spend it on luxuries or excess, your money was still gone when your local bank collapsed. As the decades went on, the prairie was being dug up. The government told people to use dust mulch to keep the soil down, as an example. So the prairie is dug up for farmland. Now, with the Great Depression, the fields are not being planted, and millions of acres are just sitting as fields of dirt where fields of grass were previously. And with winds of 60 miles an hour or more, and only flat land, the wind would pick up and carry the dust. Colorado, Kansas, New Mexico, Texas, and Oklahoma got it the worst. But dust storms made it all the way to the East Coast and New York City, and even the White House got a taste of the prairie dust. The book has tons of examples and stories of what people encountered. With the dust, there was static electricity, which was so bad people wouldn't even shake hands. It could knock one person over. People got and died of dust pneumonia, where you got too much dust in your lungs. Horses and cattle died and went blind from too much dust. Some cows' stomachs were just full of dust that no food could be digested, and they died of starvation. People's huts would get buried if they did not dig themselves out. Cars and tractors would be fully covered by a dust storm. It was just a dark, dreary existence, which led, in some cases, people to lose their minds. This is a story from the book of three teenagers who were caught in a dust storm. Ike Olstein was 5 miles away from his homestead with Tex and Pearl when he noticed rabbits and birds fleeing south. This he had never seen, a desperate migration, the birds screeching by his car and the rabbits in a sprint, all headed in the same direction. It was curious because there was still no wind, and the early morning was as luminous as the morning had been. He looked north and east, scanning the horizon of the broken land of Boca County on a rare day when a person could see it forever. Then he saw it, a few minutes past 4 p.m. "Looks like it's going to be a booger," he said to Tex. They drove on another mile before realizing it was more than a booger. It was the mother of all dusters. The birds were now thick in the sky, rabbits struggling to find hard ground on which to get some traction. Ike felt the static shooting through the inside of the car. "Hey," he touched Tex, and the shock was strong enough to knock him back. He felt like he had grabbed a power line, a live wire. "Pull over," said Tex Aker. "Let's make for that house up ahead." The Model A quit on him. They got out of the car and took a quick look at the mountain advancing towards them, black and boiling. The farmhouse, owned by the Elmer Cutler family, was close by. The three teenagers made a dash for the farm. The Cutlers were standing out front, watching the roller advance. Mrs. Cutler was on her knees praying. "Hurry, get inside." Every spike on a barbed wire fence was glowing with electricity, channeling the energy of the storm. Ike and his friends were a few yards out when the dirt got them. It came quicker than most dusters, and was deceptive because no wind was ahead of it. Not a sound, not a breeze. Then it was on top of them. They were slammed to the ground and engulfed by a wall, straight up and down. The dust abrasive and strong, boiling up, twisting. The noise was ferocious, a clanging, scrapping sound. They could not tell up from down, one side from the other. Without their dust masks or goggles, Ike and his two schoolmates were blinded, and they were struggling to breathe. They crawled forward, clawing at the air, and found the farmhouse door. The Cutlers let them in and slammed the door. It was black inside. Elmer Cutler lit a kerosene lamp, but the weak glow only extended a few feet, like a flashlight with a dying battery. They sat on the floor with towels over their heads and mouths. Tex was on one side of Ike and Pearl on the other. He could hear their voices and feel their hands, but he could not see them. He could not see his own hands in front of his face. This book does a great job at switching from the macro to the micro, meaning it will talk about the big picture, government policies, and such, but the main part of the book follows some of the families who lived through it. From the poor families who came with nothing and survived, to the rich man in town named Uncle Dick, who went broke and died supporting the people in the town he lived in. The saddest part was where these people were stuck. The wealth they had was in the land, and in good times it had value. During the dust storms, the land was worthless. So many people just had nowhere to go and had to ride it out as best they could. Overall, this is a very good book about a time and a place in American history I did not know about, other than the fact that the Dust Bowl happened. But the reasons why and the people who lived through it is a very interesting story worth the read.